Friday Live continues because the Fridays continue. And I know that everybody's talking about their haircuts and their quarantine haircuts and stuff like that. People, it's been a thing for months. Well, in Sweden, the hair places are going fine. They're just proceeding, and anybody can get a haircut whenever they want. I just haven't. So, therefore, I'm sort of graduating from my, I guess you would call what, the lefty filmmaker look that I guess I sort of have ordinarily into my crazy Tintin castaway look. So hopefully that will be altered by next week. Other things that have altered and perhaps contribute to my disheveled appearance is getting Ancient out of the basement and thereby transforming it into a usable space. As the housework continues and as the electrifying of the remote corners of the house will finally reach its peak, I hope, quite soon. Anyway, so I'm covered with the remnants of ancient rugs, and actually, the more I think about it, it's kind of repulsive. I'm kind of wish I'd taken that shower before this. Okay, so here I sit, grungy, not going to touch anything. What about the important things? Well, obviously, superheroes, are important. This is in reference to a recent Time magazine article, which is full of shit, as is any discussion of superheroes as authoritarian and establishmentarian. And yes, they have leaned in that direction to the exact extent to which they have been associated per company with toys and other media like newspaper strips and TV shows and movies and so forth. Now, that's been the case ever since they appeared. I mean, when Superman first appeared in a comic book in 1938, I mean, the ink was hardly dry before the newspaper strip started, and very quickly the radio show, and all of which has driven the comics. What I'm interested in is when the comics are freed of such things, and it's never by design. Either comics companies are struggling to get into that status, or they have fallen out of that status, or a corner of them has sort of escaped notice for a little while for structural reasons. I've written about this really extensively, that the superheroes began as very, very socially off-brand characters. Superman as a fairly socialist little thug jumping around like a flea and beating up crooked bosses and, telling the governor that he's got to take care of the poor people and stuff like that. Well, that lasted 6 months before they, kind of headlocked the creators and shuffled them off to their wartime pursuits and had the characters completely revamped to wave the flag. Same thing goes for Batman, who was a homicidal freakazoid when he first appeared, and Wonder Woman, who about much could be said and has been said, and some of you probably know. Anyway, it continues from there. All of those characters, as well as the ones that National Comics absorbed, in fact, those were absorbed making National Comics. So anyway, the appropriation of all these other characters into what we now know as DC had a lot to do with legitimizing National Comics out of the previous companies, brushes with pornography and racketeering and whatnot. And so legitimization was the whole watchword. So wave the flag, boys. That's how all those characters got their squeaky clean identities. But that wasn't the case for anyone else until in the 50s, that same company was able to get a lock onto distribution and force them all, anyone who wanted to publish comics on newsstands, forced them all to accord with its in-house comics code. There are lots of details here, but I'll just make it real brief. This has very little to do with Dr. Frederick Wortham and the seduction of the innocent. It has a lot more to do with Archie Comics and National Comics strong-arming the rest of the industry into doing what they say. So if you want to publish comics, you can only do as many as they say, and you have to do it their way. Anyway, so other comics, when they don't have to obey that, are very, very, very subversive. Furthermore, when they are beneath notice in some other fashion, they are also, the superheroes are often very, very, very subversive. And in some cases, rather knowledgeably so. And you'll see this over and over and over again. Even the ones in National Comics escaped for almost a decade, from about 1969 to about 1977. There's this period where all those characters just go completely batshit, socially speaking, and it's way more fun. Anyways, so just to let you know that yes, commerce and hegemony have everything to do with turning superheroes into authoritarian and establishmentarian characters, but not the comics as such. In fact, whenever the comics are free to be comics, they go another direction real fast. So, just want to defend the superheroes I grew up with. You were born in 1964, and you grow up with Marvel at the the height of its bull goose psychedelic and social commentary phase, and the same with National Comics in its brief competitive flirt with those very same things. You grew up with that stuff, and you're reading Captain America, and it's all about how President Nixon gets busted as the head of the secret empire, and Captain America confronts him in the Oval Office, and Nixon blows his head off. You see, that's the kind of thing that I'm reading. I mean, I'm learning about dirty heroin needles in Tomb of Dracula. I'm learning, about phrases like duodenal ulcer and paranoid schizophrenia and lysergic acid ethylamide, right? I learned all those words in my Marvel comics. So that lets the kind of associations and issues and content that the superheroes will have when they're not having their they're not being sat upon by a whole host of other priorities. Okay, I guess that's my little rant, and I've written about it really extensively at the Comics Madness blog. I think I've made that point extremely clear and backed it up multiple times, and yet I'm not Time Magazine, so guess what everybody's going to be quoting? Oh, poor me. Go quote me somewhere. It'll be fun. Nobody will care, but you'll feel better. Okay, so with that, other things to talk about. I have very little commentary regarding Sweden at the moment. Oh, except for an extremely unusual event. Driving along on our road near our place. Got the family in the car. We're driving along and going 40 kilometers per, just what the speed limit says, being perfectly good as I do. And somebody's driving like right on my bumper, the whole kind of, aggressive driving, hurry it up. I'm going to tailgate you. Hurry up kind of thing. Now, those of you in the United States are saying, what? That's just driving, right? Well, not in Sweden. Okay. That's not done. I don't know who it was or whatever, but they didn't have a good day. And I'm very pleased to be in a country where that kind of behavior is exceptional and one can address it. No police or anything like that. I was just me. So quite pleased. And yet also, hey, there's one of them out there. One of you guys out there somewhere in Sweden is driving like that. Knock it off. The rest of us are not thrilled. Okay. Great place, though, with the roundabouts and all the, driving. Go drive. Go somewhere and drive. Oh, good. It'll be relaxing. That's really different. Oh, a few other things, but I guess they would be boring. I hope everything is boring. I was told, years ago, right, there I was and living in Evanston and talking to some friends, and they were saying, but won't it be boring? Yes, I said. Yes, it will. So, from my boring spot, have a great time, and I will talk to you next week.